Running is one of the most natural forms of movement. A good runner makes it look easy, but for most people, running is hard work. Building up the strength and stamina to run long distances takes the average person years.
10 years ago when I decided I wanted to run, I couldn't run 100 yards, without having to stop. Through time and just, taking it a little bit further every time, I was able to get myself up to, running a couple of miles, and one morning I decided I would do the local 5K race. The following year I actually did the same race and I did the 10K. And from there on I joined the local track club and do 12 to 15 races per year.
Initially I started running to get into shape. I quit smoking in 2003, and one of my goals was to quit and then start to work out and get into shape. So over the next year I started running kind of smaller races.
For most people, getting out to run a few miles is enough to enjoy the outdoors and get a great workout in. But for a rare group of people, a few miles is simply not enough. At a distance of 26.2 miles, running a marathon is no average feat. But with good training, many associates at Acushnet Company have accomplished just that.
The most challenging thing about training for a marathon is the time commitment. Running, 5 days a week, getting that long run in. I would plan on my morning to be kind of taken up for, it was close to 4 months of training.
To run a marathon, you really have to think about how are you going to train, what your schedule is going to be, how are you going to eat, how are you going to stretch, how are you going to cross-train, because all these things go together to keep the runner, I believe, from getting injured or hurting themselves running in these races.
Being a runner isn't about waking up at the crack of dawn or how many miles you log. Running is learning that it's okay to struggle. It's a constant reminder that failure is often part of achievement and overcoming limitations. For runners, the challenge and difficulty is part of what makes it enjoyable. And then there's people that even runners look up to. At Ball Plant 2, team leader Kenny Rogers caught the running bug back in the 80s, and he simply never looked back.
We're at the finish of the Stone Cat Trail Marathon in Ipswich, Mass. I just finished my 100th marathon total. Today was all about having fun. I had about 40 of my friends come up and run with me. I started running in 1986 to just lose weight and do some shorter races. I never thought at the time about even running the marathon. After a few half marathons, I did my first road marathon in 1988, Rhode Island Marathon. So I've been at it almost 30 years, 28 years. Last couple of years, I've actually been doing like 7, 8 marathons a year just so I could get to that 100 marathon milestone and get the monkey off my back. When I started running in 1988, I never had any expectations of running 100 marathons. But as I got into it more, I just piled them up, and when I got into my 80s, then I started thinking about 100.
Kenny, Kenny might have run 100 marathons, but he never ran a barefoot Stone Cat.
Yeah. Did you really, Kevin?
Honest to God.
And also, it was Kimberly's first marathon.
Kenny kept asking when I was going to run a marathon, and I said, sure, when you run your 100th, I'll run my first. I didn't know he was going to run 8 marathons in 1 year. I thought I had a couple years to plan, so that's how I got here.
Through his work at the Greater New Bedford Track Club, Kenny has inspired countless runners to push a little further. Sometimes Kenny makes it look easy, but the key to enjoying running is to remember that you're out there for yourself.
Running the Boston Marathon was certainly a big challenge. There was a lot of people there to support you. The crowds out on the race course were very influential, very motivating. Running with people that I had been training with were part of the race. And getting through the end where it was just, you knew there was an end in sight.
The training really paid off. It was the real key to me finishing. I didn't hurt myself. I got to the finish line in a reasonable time. I went out of the gate really fast. I was really excited. But then when you hit the halfway mark, you start to think, well, I'm getting a little tired. And it was really towards the last 3 miles I started to think, can I finish? And I didn't expect that at all, but I felt like the 3.5 miles to go, I really had to dig deep to finish, and it was really worth it. So my big thing when I finished was I'm one and done. That's it. There's no way I could run another marathon, and I imagine Kenny running 100, and I can't imagine it. the amount of recovery time after the marathon, and then you start training again, I mean, it's phenomenal.
I've been working with Kenny for 30 years. You know, he's been a runner as long as I've known him. And, you know, he was always the person, you know, hey, I'm going to go out and run a marathon this weekend. And I'm like, I don't even want to think about driving a marathon, never mind, you know, running a marathon. And he's a pretty influential person. And he, you know, when you're out there running with him, he's a very motivating person. He's gotten a lot of people into running, and you know, I wish him the best of luck to get another 50 marathons.